Anyway, if you don't know who we are Murder of Prose. We review books. We pass judgment on the ones we like and accept the ones we don't. Because, you know, the Alcoholics Creed kind of thing. I'm Jonathan D. Clark. This is E.K. Lloyd Williams. I have nothing quippy or anything to introduce her because I didn't care enough to think of something to tie in.
You're the lettuce and I'm the fish?
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Do not compare me. Nuh-uh, no. You will call me John. Ha! For the rest of the dude's name. First name. Never gets called it, really. Romaine.
What I did notice one night, well, and I don't know if I ever, actually told you that I had noticed this, but his name is Romaine, and her name is Fisher. They're a fish taco.
Okay, I'm gonna dock this. Anyway, we are here today to review Eventide by Peter J. Aldin.
Da, 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 da.
It is a sci-fi detective novel with just a hint of political commentary, you could say.
A hint?
A hint. Just a hint, you know.
Only a hint?
A hint of it. Just
before we begin. Well, not before we begin, because we've already begun.
We've already begun.
Before we
deep dive
split hairs. I do want to say that I did really enjoy reading this book. And I feel like if you had not been in this middle of a shit show at the time, you would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Because
I will give it that because, so Pete, whatever you want to go by, if you're watching this, I did enjoy the book. It's just my mindset made me kind of not care about anything, not just your book, anything. I didn't really care. I was just eating. I didn't really enjoy the food I was eating. It was just this is keeping me alive. Sleep was just, okay, it's death without the commitment. So let me preface that I did enjoy the writing. I did enjoy, to a point, the plot. A little bit of a predictability to it. No spoilers, don't worry. But yeah, I guessed who'd done it. And when a certain comparison was made to a certain character, to a previous character who's actually not in the book, but is mentioned, I was like, okay, that person's their fate's gonna be the same as that person. And so anyway.
Why aren't we naming names and giving...
In case someone actually wants to read this book, I'm not going to be so...
Oh, okay, because we can't have we can't have a spoiler warning or strike or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in case because I would recommend this book, even though I ended up not enjoying it as much as I probably should have, given the shit I was going through. But I would recommend it. Starting off right on the bat, I will recommend this book to anyone who enjoys sci-fi and detective novels with a political bent.
Yes, absolutely. I would concur.
Now, as for the plot, since we are talking about plot, what did you score plot?
I scored plot a 7.
I did a 7 as well.
Yeah.
For, like I mentioned, one of the points was predictability.
That was the okay, so the thing that really, as far as plot, like the thing that docked it for me was that I was right. And I could kind of see things before they were going to happen as far as the story goes. Like, looking at it from a writer's perspective, and you know, if you write enough stories, eventually you can see how a plot's going to go. Like, that's just, I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, no. And like, so as writers, you and I don't like the fact that we can project where a story is going. Now, if it was just, I kind of want to give sort of the benefit of the doubt. Like, if we were just reading this as readers and not as writers, because some readers, not all, but some readers do enjoy the fact of figuring it out before it happens, because it makes them feel smarter.
Yes.
But since we do review books from that writing perspective, given some of the bullet points we touch on, yeah, it does dock it a bit as a writer to be able to see where it's going before it gets there.
Yeah.
As
a reader, as just a layman reader, like, no, every part of that was well done.
Yeah.
If I was just a reader, like if I didn't regularly put stories together, I wouldn't really understand, or I would have been surprised by who did it.
Yeah. It's not a bad plot.
No.
Per chance.
No, I think if you were gonna do the way that plot went, I think if you're gonna do a murder mystery, a sci-fi murder mystery, this is probably just about the only way you can really do it.
Yeah. Where I feel plot was a little, I won't say weak, but in terms of score, a little weak. Characters, I gave him a 10 out of 10.
I gave him an 8. Just because
everyone felt like their own person. You gave it an 8?
I gave him an 8.
Okay. What docked it for you?
Have you ever seen Camp?
No.
Okay. In Camp, there is a character called Cameron Campbell. And his voice is what I heard every time I read parts from Colonel Glass.
Oh, okay. Even though you don't have to play it for me, because I think you did say like what it sounds like in terms of.
I think I might have showed you the last time we were talking.
Doesn't he sound sort of? We'll just say dumb.
It is coming together quite nicely, isn't it?
That guy.
That guy.
It's just cute.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I can understand that getting annoying.
It wasn't even that it was annoying. It was that I just like they
but that would get annoying.
Serious conversations, and I'd be laughing my ass off the entire way through because the physical description of Colonel Glass is Cameron Campbell. Down to the cigar. So this is just what I'm hearing
Yes.
in my head every time
Hold
he's doing
Hold on.
something shady.
Hold on. I'm not going to do a good impression of Cameron Campbell, but let's see here. This is going to sound bad. I want a team back on the patch to acquire some complete plans. Like, that's what you heard when he spoke? Well, what the hell are we going to do, Sean? That's all you heard when
That
he
was
spoke?
all I heard.
The latest message pack has senior management screaming at us for more Tiger Claw. This is a disaster. Okay, I can see why this would be points. But, did anyone else sound like him?
No.
Okay, at least they didn't have like two Cameron Campbells talking to you
No.
the entire time.
I think we should move on to style.
Okay. Style. As for the style, gave it a 9. I probably should have dropped it to an 8, but I'm being generous.
I gave it a 9 as well.
For me, what dropped it a point is there are moments, and I'm not one to talk, but there were moments in this book where it felt like maybe there should have been some kind of emotional impact, but it felt very cold and clinical.
Yeah.
Now, cold and clinical works well as a detective novel because you do want to be clinical and kind of detached from things, but there are moments where I was like, yeah, some emotional depth probably would have helped.
Yeah.
Like the massacre. I think it's in part 2. Part 2? Can't remember what part it is. I think it's in part 2. Where they're at the patch and then the two younglings.
That was actually as detached as that was in style.
Like, I
thought
felt
that was really well done.
It was well written. It was very well written, but I felt like he was kind of going through the motions in terms of like it's not poorly written. Don't get me wrong.
I would disagree with you there because I don't like within that context, within that frame, like how would anybody react? How much of an emotional impact is that supposed to have beyond the impact that it did have as far as logistically?
Yeah.
But the surprise, like the suddenness of it.
The suddenness, like it was very, like in terms of everything that was going on, you could sort of you could feel the disjointed like thought processes
Yeah.
of all the characters, but like there just wasn't an emotional depth. Like, oh, his team is gone. It's like, well, yeah, you fucked up.
Yeah, in terms of the massacre itself or the ambush, yes. Yeah, I would agree with you. I would have expected him to be a little bit more frazzled.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
But other than that, this guy can write. Like and his writing style is very I won't say welcoming, but he's
probably easy to have he could be easy to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
It's an easy conversation.
Like you never get lost either, like when you're reading it. Like he makes sure to, I won't say hold your hand, but like he guides you through each scenario really well, where you're not like what the fuck?
He's definitely, yeah, he is authoritative in that respect. Like, he is definitely showing you what he wants you to see, and he's taking you exactly where he wants you to go.
Yeah.
It's very, it's great.
It's great, but again, with the plot where it's like he's taking you where he needs to go, but at a point,
You know where you're going.
does lead you to kind of be like, okay, it's this guy, and this is what's going to happen, and bam, bing, like,
yeah,
like you can tell when the lightning's going to strike before you see the actual lightning strikes, like.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, 9. I gave it a 9.
I give him a 9.
I'm pretty sure we already said that, but I'm just reminding. As for concept and execution, for concept, I gave it a 5. Because it is a pretty interesting concept. Like, because, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are other stories like this out there, but it's the first I've come across, a detective mystery sort of novel in space.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and then, of course, throwing in the other aspects of it.
Yeah, I gave concept a 4.
Okay.
It's a murder mystery. I gave it a 4 because it's in outer space.
You docked it, or did it go up?
Yes.
You docked it and it went up?
I docked it a point because it's a murder mystery, but I gave it 4 out of 5 because it's in space.
Okay. For execution, I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 3 as well.
Because this will also factor into my length score. There are parts that were not needed.
It was an enjoyable kind of.
It was an enjoyable read, but it was just like.
It's kind of like going through Nevada. Nevada's a very pretty state to drive through, but you do eventually start to wonder if it's ever going to end.
Yeah.
And like, even when even when you can see the state line coming, even when you see this many miles to Reno and you're like, oh my God, we're so close. It seems like it just
doesn't end.
So it's,
which is why you probably went the way you went when you drove here last year. You didn't want to go through Nevada. You wanted to.
I didn't want to go through. Yeah, I didn't want to go through Nevada, mostly because I went through Nevada on the way out. Like, if I wanted to look at more flat desert, then I live there. But Wyoming is a better drive anyway, and so is Idaho, by the way.
Moving on. You kept going. Anyway, for structure, I gave it an 8.
I gave structure a 9. I took notes. Why did I give structure a 9? Detail.
What a note. That's like saying, what should I get when I'm at the grocery store?
Food. Sorry. The way all his details are arranged.
Okay.
All the different bits are important. And that adds to the length of the novel overall, but all of the bits are important, and all of those details do work together to complete the story. Now, Could he have taken a few of them out? Yes. But the presence of those particular details wasn't a bad thing.
Okay.
In my opinion. Why did you give it an 8? Food.
I don't mind. Considering I'm an author who has done this, I don't mind little quotes or, epigraphs or anything at the beginning of like a part. But every fucking chapter. Now, some of them did deal with the world, like the world in which these characters live, because obviously 2141 hasn't happened yet, so... But like when you're actually like quoting... Let me just flip to one. Stalin, yeah. Or like or Book of Proverbs. Like, it just gives the book a sense of overimportance.
I felt, in that regard, what I disliked about them was that I felt they gave away too much.
Yeah.
If those quotes hadn't been there...
It probably would have been less predictable.
Yeah, at the beginning, like, you could read a quote and figure out almost immediately what's going to happen this chapter. What's going to happen this chapter. Who's going to die? Who's not going to die?
Who done it?
It was, I would have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
But since I already went to all the work of adding up my score, I'm just going to leave that where it is.
That's fair. But yeah, no, that was... It was nice at first, but when you're getting through... And it, like I said, I wouldn't have minded had it just been at the beginning of each part.
Right.
But having it be every chapter, it was just like...
By the time
I want to get to the actual meat of the story. I don't want to chew on this little bit of gristle to get to the meat.
By the time you got to chapter 25, you were just skipping whole quotes.
Yeah. So, that's why it's an 8 for me. Diction.
Diction, I gave it a 7.
Before I give my score, poor K.
Huh?
Before I give my score, poor K, like why a 7?
Nothing outrageously impressive, but the story was told well. Why the fuck did I write that? The words were not ambiguous unnecessarily, which is hugely important in any sci-fi novel.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like the author was reaching for big words to give himself some clout. He was just writing what he needed to use. He was just using the words he needed to use, and it seems like he's got the vocabulary to use those words well.
Yeah. I gave Diction a 9. I gave it a 9 only and my docking point was, and I understand, because you and I did talk about this, I understand why you wouldn't use the F word, because you want this to be appealing to younger audiences. But I really doubt the word fuck is going to die out, even in the 22nd century, 23rd century. Like hacking? No. I'm sorry. Fucking. It's gonna be fucking. What the heck?
The thing about diction, okay, so diction is your word choice, and it's your word usage. How did you...
I feel his word usage was, in that terms, was like you're going like he's not reaching for the bigger word, like the bigger vocabulary words and whatnot, but like he didn't really have to with this story.
He didn't use them in any really interesting way.
No.
It wasn't bad. It just wasn't.
But the fact that he didn't, to me, is consistency. Like he didn't just like change his prose style to fit these words that he probably could have used, but it's like, no, let's just keep it very like, so in that sense, that's why it's a 9 for me, because at least it's like, other than the fucking.
No, it's not. No, I'm not looking for inconsistency. I'm not looking for, bright pops and bursts here and there. Like, consistency is great. He just didn't do anything interesting with the words. He didn't make any interesting points. He didn't use words in ways that I've never heard before, aside from hacking.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for in diction.
Okay.
It's not just, can you use the word correctly in a sentence? Yes. No, he was very consistent throughout, and that's great. That's, you're not reaching for something just to give yourself a little bit of an extra, I'm smart, so I'm going to use this complicated word incorrectly. He's just telling a story in a really great way. It was his voice and his style that made the story something worth recommending, not his diction.
Okay. Now, moving forward with formatting, I gave it a 9.8.
I think I gave it a 10 just because there was nothing really fantastic about it. It's just solid. It's good.
I never really got used to the 5x8.
It's an odd kind of dimension. But
I mean, like if it were a thinner book, I think it would have been a little less of a nuisance.
probably.
And it's not like he needed to use this dimension to pad up the book.
Yeah,
So
I imagine it was down to whatever whoever he went through to publish it or to format it anyway.
But other than that, loved everything else about the formatting. Like
No, it doesn't.
The margins is great. The margins are great. The font, which I did find out which font it was, is beautiful. It works for this book.
Font is lovely. I like the font. I really like the font.
But other than the 5x8, it's pretty much a perfectly formatted book.
Yeah.
I have no complaints. Unlike other books that I have read / DNF'd, with the title page after chapter 1.
Okay? I'm not gonna rabbit trail.
No.
But okay, so the 5x8, it did kind of pad his page count a little bit, which I think was, like you said, unnecessary because the length, for which I gave him an 8.7.
7.9.
Actually, I said 8.7, but I think I took off the 0.7 and just made it 8, and I forgot to write it down. It was like driving through Nevada. It's beautiful. It feels like it's never gonna end.
Yeah.
And that's what like the last few chapters were for me, as far as this book goes. How did you feel about length?
I felt a 7.9 about it. It was like
Expand.
There are periods where like you read huge chunks of the book, and then you put it down because like maybe you got to go to sleep, but then like it takes me a couple days to pick it back up because there's just within the bits that you read, there's just so much in terms of detail that you're being given. And there's one, this has nothing to do with the link, but there's like one like detail discrepancy where I feel like they mentioned that Carswell was like he shaved. Because I feel like I want to say like Romaine says that if he would not have recognized him because he's no longer bearded and dirty. He was, and then the next day, I won't say the next chapter, but the next day in part 2, it's like he's back to being bearded. It's like facial hair don't grow that fast. Don't grow back within 24 hours.
His testosterone was just really high.
Or maybe being on Eventide, just like it's the humidity or something. It was just like, I don't know. I don't know how alien planets work on facial hair growth because I've never been on an alien planet. So
you live in California. It's close enough.
Yeah, but I was born here. This isn't an alien planet. This is home.
You are an alien.
I am the Jarini. Anyway.
But moving on to quotability. It's a big fat hole.
It's a goose egg for me.
I found I found one quote that I really liked. The book was good, but as far as like things that stick with you that you can quote, the only thing I found was this line that Fisher uses over and over again, which she learned when she was a kid. I exist to improve the lives of others. And I think I really like that. I think that's a solid mantra. That's a great principle on which to build your life. It's service and self-sacrifice. If that's not how you at least start to base your life, then you're kind of starting off on the back foot. If you exist just to improve your life and not the lives of everyone else around you, you're a useless eater. You're a burden to society. You are a bundle of sticks. So overall, I gave quotability a 2 because that's a good quote. That's a great quote, and that's definitely something that you could, if you're the kind of person to tattoo quotes on your body, that's definitely a good one to go for. As far as satisfaction goes, I initially gave it a 10, but I think I had some time to think about it. And I gave it a 7.5.
Gave it a 7.8. Which is why I was giving you the weirdest look when you said it was a 10. I was like,
I was my initial. Okay, so like when you finish, it's great. You come out of it and you're like, wow, that was so much fun. And then somebody says, do you want to ride the Pirates of the Caribbean again? You're like, no. That's kind of what it was like. Will I ride the Pirates of the Caribbean again someday? Probably. Maybe. It was fun the first time, but I don't immediately want to do it again. I'd recommend it to you, though. Absolutely. That's a great time. This was kind of like that. Like it's not. I wouldn't do it over and over and over again. But you'd have a good time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that because, yeah, that's how I would view this book. Like, will I read this again eventually? Possibly. And hopefully life doesn't throw me a curveball. And maybe the score will go up retroactively. Not that we'll alter our scores, but
once it's on the internet, it's on the internet forever, unless it's a Biden crack pipe. As far as extra credit goes,
I gave it a 4.
You give it a 4.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it a 7.
Poor K.
I'd read it again.
Okay.
And it's a long book.
For me, like the extra, because usually our extra credit is scored, if it either resonated with us in some way or made us think about some kind of whatever. And for me, why it's a 4 is like I can see the parallels between human history with like colonization and whatnot as to what's going on in this book. And what I thought was sort of I won't exactly say thought-provoking, but it makes you think, like, because we think about that time of our history as like it's so long ago, we've come a long way since then, but have we really? Like, if we were to go to an alien planet and find this resource that would benefit us significantly, would we be civil and try to have diplomatic relations with the alien, or would we actually just say fuck them, we're more important? Anyway. So yeah, an extra credit for me was a 4. Why did it get a 7? Besides it was enjoyable or whatever.
It was fucking long.
It was long?
It was long, and I would read it again. That's it.
Okay. What did your overall score come to?
I'd have to recalculate it.
You're a horrible human being. Are you gonna do a little something for the score, or are you just gonna give the score?
Something. What is your something?
All right. So with the extra credit, it is 80.5 slaughtered younglings. Oh yeah.
With the extra credit, it's 81.5 missing rifles. So I guess we've found out what happened to yours or the younglings.
It's almost 1 for 1.
Yikes!
Two rifles just shot at the same one. It was like, that was mine. No, that's mine. Nah, fuck you.
Without extra credit, 74.5.
Without 76.5.
Yeah. So I scored it a little bit lower than you did overall, but I gave it a little more extra credit.
Yeah.
So it evens out.
It eventides. Ha. All right.
That's it.
So, if you've made it this far, that was The Review for Eventide by Peter J. Aldin. And I might be speaking ahead of turn, but I think the next book we will be reviewing
out of turn
for the channel will be Manastique by Craig Turleson. Doesn't matter because it's in black and white. You can't see the awesome, beautifully colored, dark cover that it is.
It is pretty great. It's a great cover.
It is.
So is Eventide, though.
Yeah, Eventide is like, normally I don't like this kind of cover because it's, I don't want to say generic, but generic. But like for the book that you're reading, it actually really works really well, especially the opening like chapters.
Yeah.
Like because he's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Like most sci-fi novels where it's like it's that very spaceship over a planet cover. It's like you never really get a painting of that picture of the cover in the prose. But that one, it starts off right off the bat with kind of that image.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Maybe, and I think, another part of why I scored it so high. It's because, like, if he came out with another one...
We got more
Romaine,
books.
well, no, like, I would find another one with romaine.
Oh, okay.
With the lettuce head.
We can't make it a fish taco again now, can you?
No. No,
Maybe,
now...
maybe it'll be a pork or chicken taco.
Do we have anything else we want to add?
You know, like, if you enjoyed this video, do all that shit that other people tell you to do at the end of their videos.
I always forget about that. Yeah, do a likey, commenty, subscribey thing.
Leave a subscribe in the comments below. If you have a book that you'd like us to read and review, and if, like, let us know in the comments, and if it happens to be your own, like we did with, not this one, but the one that EK read before, City of Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, he suggested his own, and then he recommended this as well. So if you have a book or you want your own book reviewed, mention someone else's book that you either enjoyed or whatever, and we'll jerk them off too for a, you know, nice little $15 check.
Actually, we'll do it for free.
Nah, I need the $15.
Nobody's paying you.
Anyway, this has been Murder of Prose. We will see you next time when we have our first impression on the first 5 chapters. Is 5 chapters just going to be our thing, the first 5 chapters of a book?
First 5 chapters?
Man of Steel?
Yeah, we can do that. Am I going to have to go through and rename or retitle all the videos?
No, just from here on out, just call them first impressions. Don't call them read-throughs, because read-through implies that we're reading...
Read-alongs!
Read along. It's not even a read along because we're not sitting here being like, okay, page 1, chapter 1. I ran into Frank Toledo 3 weeks ago while searching for a delinquent husband in Santa Fe. Like, no, we're not doing that.
If we do read-alongs like that in the future, JD will use that voice.
Yes. Throughout the entire book. Breathy. That's the only way I can describe this voice, is breathy. Because I can feel my breath traveling through my throat, out into my mouth, out into my mouth, out of my mouth, into the ether.
If you get close enough to the camera to fog it up.
Slowly suffocating me. I'm passing out. Hold on.
Anyway, this has been Murder of Prose. We will see you probably next month sometime, but no guarantees. Take care, gang!